you have to ask yourself, if you're watching or reading Beckett's Waiting for Godot and you see that it really doesn't come to any kind of resolution and the characters are in the same sad plight that they were on page 1, people often quip it has 2 acts in it, and people say it's the play where nothing happens twice. And so nothing happens in the play. So you come to the end of that, and I think you sort of compare it to your own desire fulfillment. Is this capturing... I mean, it might be, I actually enjoy the play from a certain perspective. I teach it. I think it's enormously clever. I don't think it's true in the deepest sense, but I think it's enormously clever, and it captures sort of call it a postmodern mentality better than many, many works of art. I enjoy it in that way. But does it answer to my deepest desires for fulfillment? Is it a candidate for fulfillment? Is it giving me an image of a life I want to live? And then the answer is definitely no. And so I look for other candidates. So I look at a Jane Austen novel or Dickens or what have you, and I think, okay, if they're giving me another kind of image, another kind of picture of human fulfillment, how does that answer to my deepest desires and needs? That's rough, but I think the debate would be carried on that way. No one's going to come in and sort of declare an artist definitively the winner, like in a boxing match. The criterion, I think, is provided by our own deepest desires and our own understanding of what's going to fulfill them.
Yeah. No, that's very helpful. Yeah. Almost looking for a correspondence with how does this account resonate with what it is that I yearn for most, right? And,
yes.
You say the stories are moral arguments, but not in the sense of a philosophical argument. And then you have concepts of the poetic syllogism, the mimetic universal, the controlling idea. Could you say a little bit about this? Like, in what sense is a story a moral argument?
Yeah. I think it's helpful to begin by saying the moral dimension of a story is not something tacked on. And it's not something that's so literal as, say, the moral of an Aesop fable, which always kind of strikes me as two-dimensional. But at any rate, whenever you imitate human beings in a painting, in a novel, in a play, I would say in a piece of music, you are in the moral ballgame. Because morality is not just a set of rules that we follow in special circumstances of life. So there are certain policies at my college. There are traffic laws, there are laws of the state of Virginia, etc. And morality comes into play when I bump up against one of those laws, which doesn't happen all the time. That's okay. That might be sort of the defining chalk line of morality. But the moral life, what I might prefer to call the ethical life, is really what we've been talking about all along. It's that desire for ultimate fulfillment. Because the moral life is about that quest for happiness. And so when we imitate that in art, we are imitating the moral. It's not something tacked on. It's not something two-dimensional. It's integral to human action and therefore to the imitation of human action. Now, when we imitate that action, we are always commenting upon it. We are always saying something about it. I'll put it more strongly. We're always trying to persuade our audience of a certain way of regarding human fulfillment. So again, Samuel Beckett in his play, Waiting for Godot, he's certainly trying to persuade us that life is meaningless. It's kind of a cruel joke. And what you do is you crack some stale jokes and pass the time and just try to endure it. He's trying to convince me of something, and I'm not convinced. I'm entertained, perhaps, but I'm not convinced. Every work of art is trying to do that. That it's trying to, not, again, as you said, not philosophically, not by giving us statements or abstract arguments, but in an experiential way, in a way that draws upon our emotional life and our delight, trying to show us, not tell us, this is the way fulfillment ought to be or ought not to be. It's best that the artist doesn't make an explicit claim, but just let the imitation do the work.